Welcome to yet another engrossing film about the future of Tesla, a firm that has transformed the automobile sector and is also spearheading the renewable energy movement. The movie talks on how Tesla may take over the market by offering a full self-driving FSD subscription service. FSD is software that can be installed on an automobile and is expected to produce a 60% profit margin by 2030. Furthermore, Tesla's energy business is booming with over $100 billion in sales expected in 2023 alone. The video gives you an understanding of Tesla's financial outlook and demonstrates how you may use this information to prepare for an early retirement. Come along as we explore the fascinating world of Tesla and its prospects for growth in the upcoming years. I would like you to hit the like button and subscribe to Tesla before we begin. For FSD, a subscription-based service seems reasonable. Since FSD is software that can be downloaded onto a car, Tesla predicts that the profit margin will be 60% by 2030, which is pure profit even if the company acknowledges that they do not have enough evidence to completely back this claim. By 2030, I think FSD will be regulated, and Tesla's profit margin might even be larger. And there's still Tesla Energy, claiming to have made about $4 billion in revenue overall in 2022, and to have made nearly $300 billion in profit at a 12% margin in the final quarter of the year. They estimate that they will make $7.5 billion at a 12% rate in 2023 and $1.5 billion at a 13% margin in 2024. From then on, they expect their earnings to increase by 50% annually until 2030. In 2023, I believe there will be above $100 billion in overall revenue. But Tesla will have to pay foreign exchange costs, which will cut into its earnings. According to their predictions, Tesla will pay over $1.5 billion in 2023, which will lower their net income from over $17 billion to slightly less than $16 billion. They're hopeful that lower exchange rates will weaken the US dollar and lower the expenses, but I believe that this expense will keep rising year after year. Again, in my opinion, Tesla stock will continue to lose value by 2% a year between 2023 and 2030 if there are no dividends or buybacks. By the end of the decade, they project that Tesla's total revenue from FSD, energy, and vehicles will exceed $750 billion. However, this is a cautious estimate given the additional projects Tesla has planned, such as the robot. As we go towards fully autonomous driving, I estimate that the one-time cost will be close to $30,000 by 2030. Even though some people would find this forecast absurd, full self-driving technology cost $8,000 in 2020. By 2022's end, the cost had nearly doubled to $15,000. Since the average price in 2022 is $12,500, I'm being conservative with my projection. In the following 7 years, I think the price will double once more, and by 2030, it might even go up much further. Pure profit will emerge from the FSD profit margin, which can reach up to 60%. This is so that the automobile can become self-driving thanks to FSD, which is software that can be downloaded. The car will be regulated and capable of transporting you anywhere by 2030. I think Tesla can overcome this FSD problem, and by 2030, I think they'll have a $38 billion profit margin at most. Apart from FSD, the energy sector in Tesla is doing very well. They made over $4 billion in total revenue and earnings in 2022. They did a 12% margin in the final quarter of 2022, which is absurd. According to my prediction, they will generate $7.5 billion in revenue overall with a 12% margin in 2023. The entire year 2023 will yield $900 billion as a result of this. With a 13% margin, or roughly $1.5 million, I'm projecting $1.5 billion in total sales in 2024. From that point on, revenue will rise by 50% annually until 2030, at which point the profit margin will likewise rise annually. Since Tesla has stated that they aim to match the energy sector's revenue, which is now at 20% with their vehicles, I'm also being conservative with this prediction. By 2023, though, it might be much higher. By 2023, I believe Tesla will have generated $100 billion in revenue. Overall, which will be a fantastic achievement, it appears like Tesla has a promising 10 years ahead of it. Not to mention the impending Tesla bot and other initiatives, their energy and vehicle sectors alone generate over $750 billion in sales annually. Naturally, nevertheless, we must exercise caution when it comes to earnings. We should have over $17 billion in revenue by the end of this year and over $170 billion in profits by the end of 2030, according to my estimates. We must, however, take into consideration the foreign exchange expense, which will reduce our total revenue. For instance, we will have to spend over $1.5 billion in FX currency charges in 2023. As a result, our income will drop from almost $17 billion to somewhat less than $16 billion. But when everything is said and done, the influence is not that great. Let's now discuss shares. There will be a 2% dilution, no buybacks, and no dividends between 2023 and 2030. In terms of EPS, it was $4.70 in 2022. By the end of this year, I predict that we will have $4.86 EPS, and by 2030, we will almost have $47. That really is amazing. Let's now discuss the pricing of the stock. Tesla experienced a difficult year in 2022, with the stock falling by roughly 70% to 80%. With a 50p, the average price of Tesla shares was almost $204 per share. At one time, it dropped to $102 per share, but since the fiscal year was still open, it might drop even further. However, if you had invested $10,000 at $204 a share in Tesla stock, you would have acquired roughly 49 shares, and given the stock's current fluctuating price between $180 and $105, you could have ended the year with a respectable profit. I predict that the stock market will turn bullish in the first quarter of 2024, with the Federal Reserve taking a break and inflation declining. With a price per share of $292 and a price-to-earnings ratio of 60, Tesla's market capitalization would nearly approach $1 trillion. In such a scenario, your $10,000 initial investment would increase to over $14,000, representing a 40% return. You could still get a substantial 20% return, even if the price stays within the 50p area. However, I think Tesla's stock might hit a very high P in 2024. Of 65 and a market valuation of more than $1.5 trillion with a stock price per share of $478. In the event that this occurs, you would have received a return on investment of about 230% or more than $23,500. I forecast a market valuation of about $2.2 trillion, a P of 60, and a stock price of $650 per share in 2025. It's absurd that your $10,000 investment would suddenly be worth over $32,000. Tesla may split its equity by 2026, maybe 4-to-1. I'm projecting a P of 55, a stock price of $828 per share, and a market capitalization of more than $2.8 trillion if we enter a significant bull market. Over $52,000 would be the current value of your first investment, more than 5 times what you started with. With a market capitalization of $3.7 trillion, a P of 50, and a stock price of $1,061 per share in 2027 are what I anticipate. Over $73,000 would be the current value of your investment, more than 7 times what you started with. I project the stock price to reach $1,632 per share and a market capitalization of more than $6 trillion by 2030, assuming a P of 35. By 2030, your $10,000 initial investment would have grown to roughly $80,000, or about 800%. I'm investing all of my money in Tesla stock because of its amazing growth potential, even though I realize this may seem crazy. This means that even if my predictions are only partially accurate, you might still get an incredible 40% return. Anyhow, those are just a few of the figures I've been examining. It will be interesting to watch how events develop in the ensuing years. That brings an end to our analysis of Tesla's future prospects, especially in light of their booming energy business and their subscription-based service for fully autonomous driving technology. It's evident that Tesla has a great deal of potential for development and profitability in the upcoming years, even though some of the projections may appear lofty. Of course, there are costs to consider, such as foreign exchange, but all in all, the future looks promising. I appreciate you seeing. We want to feature you in our next video. I'm investing all of my money in Tesla stock because of its amazing growth potential. Even though I realize this may seem crazy, this means that even if my predictions are only partially accurate, you might still get an incredible 40% return. Anyhow, those are just a few of the figures I've been examining. It will be interesting to watch how events develop in the ensuing years. That brings an end to our analysis of Tesla's future prospects, especially in light of their booming energy business and their subscription-based service for fully autonomous driving technology. It's evident that Tesla has a great deal of potential for development and profitability in the upcoming years, even though some of the projections may appear lofty. Of course, there are costs to consider, such as foreign exchange, but all in all, the future looks promising. I appreciate you seeing. We want to feature you in our next video.